Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about everything board game related. Today we are taking you to Santorini, the island with the blue domes, and I gotta tell you, David, this game is absolutely beautiful. It's an abstract game from Roxley Games, the makers of Super Motherlode and Steampunk Rally. This is their third game.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the best games of the year.
It really is. It is an abstract game, but boy, it's the most colorful and beautiful abstract game I've ever seen.
Yes.
It really pulls you in. I remember seeing this, well, I played it at Gen Con, but even before this, I'd heard about it. They ran a Kickstarter earlier this year. Really cool story. This comes from Dr. Gordon Hamilton, who's an educator and obviously a doctor, but he embraces the concept of using games for education and teaching kids with this. This used to be a very abstract-looking game, and now it's turned into this beautiful, beautiful game that's coming out in January, right?
Yeah, in January of 2017. So the game labels itself as a game that you can learn in 30 seconds and play for life.
Well, early signals suggest that's the case, for sure.
Exactly. So let's talk about the components real quick, and then we'll get into the basic gameplay, and then get into the gods and how that changes the gameplay. So the basic game comes with the board, all of the building structures, and then 40 of the gods that you'll be using. The board himself, there is an island tile, which is just stunningly beautiful to look at. There's this plastic component that lifts the island up off of the ocean floor.
It's one of the best boards I've seen.
Yeah,
period.
Right.
Period. Certainly one of the best boards this year, but maybe ever.
And then there is a playing surface that is a 5x5 grid in which you'll be moving your pawns around and building buildings.
Right.
There are 4 layers to a building. There's a base level, a mid level, a top level, which is the victory condition in the game, and then a dome, which kind of caps off the building, and the building can't be built anymore beyond that 4th level.
Yeah, and all these pieces in the game are phenomenal.
Right.
I mean, they're really sturdy molded plastic.
Right.
This is not going to be the kind of stuff that breaks really easily, and it's nicely structured so that it fits together, but not too tight. I mean, it's very loose, but they fit together beautifully, as you can see here on the board.
Right. There's a set of the pawns, which you'll be moving around to build. And then there are the cards in the game. There are 10 simple gods, which kind of start you out to learn you the game.
Right.
And then there's another set of the advanced gods that kind of teach you some additional rules.
And this is where the game just blows it out of the park, man. These things add so much variability. And before we get to those, we got to talk about how the basic game plays.
So the game plays like this. One player. It's basically a 2-player game, although it can be played as a 4-player game or as a team game. The object of the game, before we get into the gameplay, is to get one of your players to the 3rd level and to stand upon it.
Right, before a dome is built on it.
Before a dome is built on that location. That's the victory conditions. Now, some of the gods will vary the victory conditions. We'll get into that in a moment. The gameplay works like this. The first player is going to place their 2 pawns anywhere they wish onto the empty board, and then the opposing player will do the same. And then the first player can pick one of their 2 pawns, move it 1 space in any direction, and then they build in any direction that's around them where they land.
And those are the basic rules. If you're not playing with gods, which is how this game really originally started, that's all you do. You move, then build.
When you move, you build into a location that is around you. If it is the ground floor, you just put a ground floor. You can also build on top of a location that is there.
Right. Now, in fact, you can build all the way to the top, even if you're on the ground. It doesn't depend on where you're positioned vertically.
Right. That's the basic game. You're going to keep playing, one player moving, building, and back and forth until one player is allowed to get up onto that location. Now,
exactly. And when you move, you can move up onto location. So I can move up onto this building, and then I'd need to build a second story here to get up on that. You can't jump 2 stories up.
Right. Just 1 level up per turn. Basic game. The god powers is what really makes a difference. So depending on the number of players, you're going to draw that many god powers. Now you can use either the simple or the advanced gods. When you draw these, the first player will pick one of the gods. The gods are broken down like this. In the upper left-hand corner, that tells you what kind of game that can be played.
Yeah, player count, basically.
Yeah, player count for it. There is a icon here that shows the Golden Fleece icon. That means that it can be used in the Golden Fleece variant. Some of the cards cannot be used. And then on the bottom is the ability of that specific god that you can use.
Right, and these things, we can't even go into all of them.
Right.
But boy, do they range, and they really make the game so different.
Right. I'll talk about 2 of them, and I'll let you talk about one.
Please.
So one of them is the Minotaur. He's a simple god, and basically anytime he moves, he can move into another character and push them one space backwards, even off of a building.
Right.
So he's a really, really cool character
Just
to
like
use.
a Minotaur.
You're right. And then Atlas, which is super fun to use.
You've played Atlas a couple times.
I know. So Atlas has one of those abilities that lets him build domes on any level.
Even the ground.
Even the ground. Why would he want to do that? Well, you can block characters in. And if you can block one of their two characters in, that gives them limited range of motion and abilities for future turns. And I've done it before.
Right. That's not even a strategy that had occurred to me at first. When I saw the Atlas card, I thought, okay, well, he'll be able to build some domes on some lower levels to stop my progress from climbing.
Right.
Then you started building on the ground, and of course I had to check the card to see if that was even allowed, and it is. So yeah, then the whole strategy developed where you can just I'm just going to circle you in, because that's one of the other win conditions, or actually lose conditions, is if on your turn you can't legally move, you've lost.
That's right.
So Atlas can kind of box you in, and that it is possible. If you're in a space surrounded by things that are 2 levels high or finished and you can't step on them, you're locked.
I'm gonna talk about Hermes too, because he's so cool.
Yeah, Hermes is pretty
Hermes.
sweet.
If Hermes does not move up, if one of the 2 workers that you have does not move up, he can move anywhere on the board. He just zips around and then builds right after.
It's so cool. The freedom of Hermes allows you to, Jeremy at one point had me locked in, or he thought he had me close to locked in, and Hermes could basically end up on the other side of the board, and Jeremy's like, wait, what? That's not in one straight line? Nope. Hermes can go anywhere.
Yep.
One of the ones that I really like, and this is an example of where the win conditions change a little bit. There's a few like that. Pan, in addition to the normal win condition of getting up onto the 3rd level with your pawn, all he has to do is at any time jump off of a building and go down more than 2 levels at once into a space. If he does that, he wins.
Right.
So the interesting thing about this, it gives the Pan player an extra route to victory, but it makes the opponent have to completely change their game, because you're running around making sure Pan can't do that. That really becomes more of your game than anything. And if you're able to get the win condition, great. But you have to keep Pan. You're building buildings underneath Pan or beside him so that he can't jump down 2 levels. It is so fun.
Very cool. There's characters that let you destroy buildings as well, or to build double. I mean, there's a whole slew of
there's
ones.
a whole... these are the characters here.
Right.
I mean, it's just insane, and you'd think when you look at each of these, boy, that seems like it has to be broken, but it's not. I mean, we've found that you're able to win or not win with a lot of these things.
There's also a expansion to it called the Golden Fleece. Now, the Golden Fleece comes with 15 new gods and 10 heroes. The heroes look just like these cards, although they're one-time uses. They can be used as kind of a crutch for players that have not played the game against a more advanced player. So one player can start off with a hero, the other may not wish to start with a hero, or both players can start with a hero and a god, however you wish to mix that up. Also in here, there are, it's the Golden Fleece.
Yeah,
itself.
The Golden Fleece variant comes with this, and this is really interesting.
Right, you want to talk about the Golden Fleece?
Yeah, and in the Golden Fleece variant, you don't start with a god card.
Right.
You place the Golden Fleece out onto any space. I think the first player does that. And the way it works is you're going to take one of the characters from the game that's usable with the Golden Fleece variant, and that god's power is the one that anyone can use as long as they begin their turn with one of their pawns next to the Golden Fleece.
Right.
So basically, you're stripped of any power that you might have otherwise, but you can leech off the Golden Fleece's power as long as one of your guys is standing next to it.
And again, that makes the game so varied, because typically each player is going to have their person camped out around the Golden Fleece, while their other guy is going off building and doing something.
Yeah, usually the games we've played like that, there's always one of us camped there, or at least both of us. And then when you feel like you're close enough to that win condition, but you need your other guy over there to help, you make a run for it and try to get it done. But it really does change the game up considerably.
Yeah, and also in here, there is one of the heroes that has a screen with it.
This guy is crazy. It comes with a player screen and a small representation of the player board.
Right.
And you're making your moves in private. Your opponent can't see them. And on top of it, so that's hard enough as is. And then on top of it, when your opponent does something on the regular board that would not be allowed otherwise, say if they're building a building and it's on top of your character, you can tell them that, and they lose their turn. They don't get to build there, and now it's your turn again. We haven't played with that god yet, but it seems like an absolutely punishing god. But like we said, all of them seem that, or a lot of them seem that way at first.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I see how this works, and I can see how I can defend against it. It's really a brilliant abstract game.
The manual, guys, if you have questions about all these gods, too, I wanted to show this. They're all explained really, really well in this, and it just shows you the depth and variability into the game by looking at that chart.
And now that you're holding that up, it reminds me, too, if we haven't said it already, the artwork in this game is absolutely beautiful. It is Jeremy and I both agree this is like the perfect artwork for us. It's like animation quality stuff. I can't say enough about Santorini.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be one of my top games of the year. I can say it right now.
I agree.
It's coming out in January, I know. So if you haven't, you can get out there and pre-order it still. They ran the Kickstarter, so I really, really urge you to get out there and pre-order this before it's hard to get.
I would agree. By the end of this year, I think that you and I would both agree that this is probably going to be in our top 10, very high up on our top 10.
I can't imagine it not being.
It's definitely a abstract game for enthusiast gamers. It's like, but this is our chess.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just a beautiful production. So guys, go check that out on their website. That's Roxley. Make sure you guys make comments below in this YouTube channel. Please subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. And check us out next time on Man vs. Meeple.
Bye-bye.
Season 1 of Man vs. Meeple is sponsored by TMG Games, publisher of great games like Yokohama, Guilds of London, and the soon-to-be-released Colosseum.